My name is Sister Mary Grace, and I've been a Sister of Life for 11 years now. The Sisters of Life, we're a religious community, but we're really women that have been captivated by the love of Jesus. He's kind of broke into each one of our lives in a particular way, and his love and his life has literally changed everything. Convinced me to go from the beach to the Bronx, which can really only happen when a heart is actually in love, and that happened to me when I was an 18-year-old, and yeah, now I'm doing the Lord's work in a way that I never dreamed of. You know, I heard that like our vocations are actually planted in our hearts when we're baptized, so I didn't know about that till I turned about 18. But when I actually also too met the Sisters of Life, they came to Sydney for World Youth Day, and seeing the way they lived and they loved and the way they're in love with Jesus, actually, it resuscitated in me this desire to belong to Jesus that I didn't even know I had. I didn't talk to them. I don't remember what they said, don't know how they sung, but I do remember that I think I met the reality of a relationship with Jesus, and that kind of changed my life, honestly, as an 18-year-old when I was looking at a lot of different career paths. I wanted to be a professional athlete, I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to be a journalist. I had no idea what I wanted to do. But meeting the sisters helped me to see, actually, I'm made for love. And that's the one thing that's going to satisfy me. And actually, yeah, once I met the sisters, I actually honestly just started praying for the first time in my life and asking Jesus about my desires and what's he made me for, how have you created me to love? And the more I asked him, the more he showed me that in my own heart, I wanted totally to belong to him. And that's definitely something I could not have made up. So he called me from within me. I remember seeing just how joyful they were, and I really did think they were putting it on. I was like, that can't be real. But it fascinated me too, because I saw in that joy something that I deeply ached for and I didn't have. I was a practicing Catholic, super involved with the Catholic scene in Sydney. But there was something missing in my heart. I was doing a lot for God, but I didn't know God. So that really kind of woke up the desire in my own heart to really take God's words for real. And if he was if he created me for happiness, for life, for fullness, then I wanted that. And I wasn't experiencing it, but I started to ask Jesus, are you for real? Are your promises real? And if they are, I want joy. I want hope. I want happiness to a next level, more than what I've ever had before. And Jesus literally started showing me how seriously he takes my desires and began to fulfill them and show me how he was fulfilling them and widening them the more and more I turned to him for things. One of the biggest fears for me, actually, when I was considering religious life, I was so locked on all the stuff I was going to lose out on. It was scary to think that I wouldn't have my own family. It was scary to think that I wouldn't surf again at Australian beaches. It was scary to think that I wouldn't run onto a rugby sevens field for my country. There were legitimate concerns of when I was asking Jesus what his plans for my life was. I was terrified about all that I would, potentially miss out on. And they're real. God asks us sometimes to give up a lot of things that we don't anticipate, unexpected things he allows to be taken away. Things that we treasure can at times be lost and seemingly lost. But the truth is, the Father never stops giving us everything. In my losses, in my sins, in my own mess, when I've turned my heart back to the Father and asked Jesus what in the world he's doing here, all I have received is gain. I've gained everything. I've gained the love that I have been desiring for my whole life long. I've gained the community and friendship in religious life in ways that I never thought was possible. I've gained the gift it is to speak about Jesus that I had no idea how much I wanted to do that. I've gained more than I ever thought I'd need. So I would just invite anyone that is fearful about loss or missing out to actually be real about that fear, to give it to Jesus and watch the Father show up. Watch him provide, possibly in ways that we didn't expect, but provide he will. I think the best thing about religious life is coming to experience in a radical way how seriously Jesus takes our lives. None of us is an accident. None of us is a mistake. We're not here by chance. In fact, you and I belong in the heart and the mind and the dreams of God even before we existed. and to live in relationship with that God who never ceases to love us at every moment of our life, to live in that truth, to dive deeper into that truth, to let all the lies that I've been living in and continue to live in be redeemed by Him every day, to turn to Jesus to save me day by day, taking the saving love of Jesus seriously every single day. What a gift. What a gift to know that we have a God who loves us and who is merciful and is actually interested in the mess of our lives and interested in calling us to life. And as a sister, to know Jesus is the ultimate, He's the ultimate ache of every human heart, and to know that now in this life is the greatest gift to receive and also the greatest gift to give away. For us to travel to places like Australia, to come home to my own hometown and say, I have found the answer. And it's on offer to you that there is more than what we see and taste and touch, that those things are good, but God has so much more in store for you. And He doesn't want to just answer that in heaven and in the future or after we get through that difficult time in our life or this phase passes or once we walk down the aisle or enter the convent. It's like Jesus has love for you right now. And that is such a profound gift to receive and speak about every day. I'm always surprised by like who God lines up for us to meet. You know, we plan to go to Australia, Sydney, the university campuses, but God literally like lines up people along the way. He desires so much for every heart to know these truths that literally set us free to be ourselves. But recently, actually, one of those kind of like detour moments happened where we didn't expect an opportunity to evangelize, and it happened at a gas station, or a petrol station, pardon me, in the States. And a sister and I were driving back from the mountains, and we ran out of petrol, and we had like this, water wash fluid issue. And, you know, when I start talking in a car, I kind of like lose all sense of direction. So we kind of like miss the first turn off, miss the second turn off. And then finally, we just decided to be silent. So we get this third turn off. So finally we turn off, and there's this one lonely gas station, petrol station. And we pull up, and sister goes in to order some petrol. And I'm standing by the car, and I'm kind of like just cleaning up all the dirt off the car, and this woman is sitting in a car right on the other side of the petrol gas, and she's looking from inside her car, and I look over to her and I wave, and she kind of like reacts and like pulls out her camera and starts filming, which is kind of like, I don't know, a little bit normal for us now. So I kind of like gently wave, and then finally I was like, oh, I wonder whether she's up for a conversation. And next minute she gets out of the car, and she's in tears, and I'm wondering what is going on. And she shared with us that she actually has been heavily addicted actually to alcohol of recent, and has struggled her whole life to break free. And her sister was sitting in the driver's seat, and her sister has just experienced freedom from her own addiction, and said to her sister, would you come away with me one weekend and just try and see if we can break free of this addiction? Neither of them had a faith background, but they were trying with all their might to try and see if they could stop. And this girl gets out and she said, you know, I was really regretting this weekend and kind of really discouraged about the difficulty and the chain-like experience of being an addiction. And she said, so I was sitting here at the gas station, and I just started to Google, like, you know, what did she say? She started to look on YouTube for some kind of inspiration. And she said, I pull it up and I start looking at these nuns dressed in blue and white, talking about the power of Jesus to set us free from things that hold us back. And she's sitting there and she's like, I'm weeping, thinking, finally, this is something that's lifting my heart. And she said, I look out the window and she said, there you and your sisters are. And she got out and she said, I think this is God telling me, I hear you, I'm with you, and I want to save you. And literally in the middle of that gas station, we're standing there, and I'm like, oh my goodness, okay. I was like, well, let's pray, let's ask God to do something here. And we just asked God to like lift our hearts, to help us out. And this whole woman's life was changed in this moment. And for us, you know, we have like, you know, we come up with a lot of like strategies and ideas of way to evangelize, but really evangelization is listening to what God is doing in our life. You know, He's showing up time and time again. He's breaking in left, right, and center. He is constantly and ceaselessly pouring out His love and mercy and trying to engage us at every point of our life. And for us, when we're open to it and we're looking for it, Jesus will break in and give us a chance to start again. And so that for us, like, I mean, honestly, this woman was an inspiration to me. Like, am I looking at God's pursuit of me? Like, where is He coming toward me? So yeah, that's just a story for that moves my heart to like, yeah, look for the approaches of God wherever we are. real word was on my heart, especially to Australians. And actually being here in Tasmania, I went for a long walk this morning, and I really felt the Lord say to me, tell them to bring me what lacks in their life. You know, I think a lot of the time we can, always put our best foot forward, our gifts, our strengths, make career choices about the stuff that we do well, make decisions about the stuff that we're in control of, can manage. But God is so much more in love with us and so much more creative than just our good stuff. Actually, it's the stuff that we lack that gives a space for God to come into our life. So if you are, hungering for more in life, if you want more out of life, if you notice in your heart, wow, I'm lonely, wow, I can't get rid of that addiction, wow, I'm miserable about this relationship in my life, wow, I have no idea what God's calling me to, gosh, I have, I'm scared about that memory that I have or that trauma that I experienced. I don't know how to deal with. All that stuff, the stuff where we lack, to God is never a problem. That's the space that He comes and gives us the gift of Himself and sets us free. Literally Jesus fills the voids in our life. And that took me a long time to learn. Once I knew that Jesus could enter the places where I lack, my whole life changed. Because then it's like, we're never alone anymore. In my lackings, in my weaknesses, in my failures, that's the stuff that Jesus wants to be with us in, to meet us in, and we can let what lacks in us lead us to Christ. And that will literally change your life again and again.